We have 6 directors here. We're waiting on one. He is on his way. And if you guys don't mind, let's stand and say a prayer and then the Pledge of Allegiance. And the flags keep moving back and forth. It's great. No, I'm just kidding. Let's start with a prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this gorgeous day and this gorgeous weather you've given us. And thank you so much for protecting this country and protecting our servicemen and women. And we just pray that you continue to be with them, be with the first responders. Thank you for being with all the people that have been affected by the terror attacks recently. We just appreciate you, and we thank you so much for everything you're doing. We pray you give us wisdom today and help us make the right decisions for this water company. And we love you and thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. We'll say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, guys. Thanks everyone for being here again. This is kind of unusual to have a second budget meeting, but I think it was necessary, and we're going to go ahead and get everything started. First of all, I'd like to announce that we do have a quorum. We have 6 of the board members here. Like I said, one member is on his way. Audio and video recorders are in use. If anybody wants to address the board, please fill out the member form sign-up sheet in the lobby. And I would like to announce the annual meeting is January 21st, Tuesday, January 21st at 7 a.m. And voting is open from 7:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. And we encourage everyone, every member of the water board to come vote. There's quite a few people to choose from, and which is a really good thing that so many folks want to be getting involved, want to be involved, and we appreciate that. So the voting is from 7:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. on that day. All right, unfinished business. We will start, I guess, with Mr. Krigler. Get it started.
Yeah, so I just got a couple slides I'm going to run through. I'm not going to rehash my presentation from the last board meeting.
Sure.
Did want to point out a few things, specifically related to some of Don's information requests, go over some of that stuff. But before I do, I did want to give what's hopefully some good news. Looks like we're making really good progress on the pipeline replacement up at Fairpoint, that project. And we hope to have that, fingers crossed. We've got our bacteriological samples submitted. Hopefully latter part of this week, we're going to have some really good news for the members that will be back on with Fairpoint. So nice. We'll update everybody when that happens. Of course, thanks to our operations team. They've worked a lot over the holidays, did some great work. And, of course, our emergency contractor was also very willing to work on the majority of those days over the holidays. So really was a team effort, and it came together real well. So like I said, there'll be some good news in the next day or two.
Yeah.
Jeff, so right now, water's not flowing right. We need to wait on the test results.
That's correct.
And then open the gate.
That's correct. That's the plan.
Real quick, Jeff, Clinton gave us Phil gave up the WAG, but could you send the Fairpoint forward what your estimate for the cost of this is?
I will.
Because I haven't seen that yet.
Yep, I will.
Okay, thank you.
The other, let me make a note of this. The other thing I just wanted to mention real quick, I think there was some discussion after the last board meeting that this kind of budget process, the timing of it was kind of condensed at the end. And I think what I would say to that is, and we can maybe talk about this during the board training meeting, is do we want to look at doing that first workshop earlier next year? So that's the type of conversation we can have at the board training is if there is a feeling that was kind of a compressed schedule, we can have that conversation, and maybe that'd be one way to help alleviate any type of crunch at the end. So I don't want you guys to be crunched at the end, not be able to feel like you can make those decisions.
Yeah, I think this particular year was because we got the results back from the from the survey, and we got those back kind of late, but yeah, it's definitely something to talk about at the workshop.
Okay. So just kind of, I wanted to run through a few things. A lot of this, rate study, rate increase comes down to cash and cash flow. So, Barbara's come up with some, cash flow analyses, as it relates to really, our cash position changes daily. We've got stuff coming in, bills going out. So you can see the variability there in December 19th, we were around 2.6 million, and it fluctuates. And like I said, it's a combination of what's in the two unrestricted accounts plus, accounts receivable, all the bills we send out. So that's how we come up with our cash flow. So this is something we're going to, obviously, we track this, but pay more attention to it and be a little more focused on what that number is. And how it relates to our reserve. Currently, our reserve is right around 2 million. As you know, we're trying to stay at that 1.5 mark. So we're getting down there close to that reserve already. So I think that kind of plays into this discussion and kind of why we're facing some of these challenges. I put the restricted in here just for reference, about 9 million. Of course, that will be affected by the large number of capital projects that we have ongoing and we'll have to pay for as we go this year, and draw the loan down, of course. Don had asked for some information prior to this workshop. I sent that response out on Friday. I wanted to kind of go over a few of those, touch on a couple of those things. Don had asked for a kind of a description of each line item on our unrestricted budget. That's been provided. What I've tried to just boil it down to is basically about a paragraph about each of those unrestricted projects. And just kind of as an overview, about 14 of those items on our unrestricted sheet are annually recurring items, meaning we kind of fund those every year. We don't always every year have things happen that require those items to use the funds in that item, but we feel that they're all necessary items. And then the remainder of the unrestricted is kind of an individual non-recurring projects, and you'll have heard about most of these. The main ones being the force main replacement at the wastewater plant, which we need to do. Of course, our VT SCADA integration, which is ongoing. We identified a project for a new generator at the Navarre plant, and then 2 smaller projects there at the plant, replacement of a mixer and some work on our digester tank, which has kind of had some issues recently. There was 2 projects we took out of this unrestricted list during the budgeting process. I was going to do some driveway work at the Holly plant, and also the mechanical shop that our wastewater and electrical guys share down there at the plant. We'd like to do some renovations of that, but we took that out as well. We just felt it didn't rise to the level of trying to fund that this year. So that's just kind of an overview of the unrestricted. I do want to touch again just on operating expenses. We're basically proposing in this budget total operating expenses that are essentially flat with 24, so no increase. There's been multiple areas where we have been able to reduce costs over the last 2 years. I'll just touch on a couple of them. We've been able to negotiate a better deal on trash service at all our locations. Chlorine delivery with going out for that bid has resulted in more favorable pricing on chlorine. Even though they did increase the price this year, it's still lower than where it was 2 years ago when we didn't have that contract in place. So we've seen some positive things there. Of course, a lot of work on that on our IT. We've consolidated some services. We got one vendor that we moved away from and realized some cost savings there. Our legal budget this year is down a little thanks to the fine work of our legal staff, and then overall our water expenses and our wastewater expenses overall are down from budgeted 25 numbers less than 24. So I think water is about 3% less, wastewater is about 7% less than what we planned on spending in fact in 24. So that's good news considering some things are still being more expensive. So I think it shows the staff being very efficient with their operations. Don asked for a couple of scenarios. So I'm going to run through those. Let's see, I think the percentages got cut off, but let me see if I can remember what's going on here. So the first one was the, I believe it was the 10-10-10 scenario, and then 3% the rest of the time. So you can see in that scenario, the cash still drops pretty low in 25, 26, either right at or right under our reserve. And then Don also asked about 8, 8, 8, 8, and then 3% out. You can see that's even more restricted from a cash perspective. And then just for reference, this is the cash graph at the current proposed 12, 3. As you can see, it still dips fairly low, but you know, it's that first increase allows us to keep the cash level up in 25. There's lots of charts that, of course, that go with those numbers, but this one kind of was the most kind of showed the cash balances the best and the effect of the increases on the cash balances. I did want to comment real quick. There was some information put out about our wages relative to our revenue. If you look at what our proposed wages for 25 versus our total revenue, it's about 27%. And if you add in wages and benefits over total revenue, it comes in at about 36%. So there was, like I said, there was some figures being thrown around that were higher than that. Not sure where that came from, but did want to mention that.
Being thrown around where?
It was a report
Social media?
we received. It was a report that we had received from, I think it was from Carmen. Which, by the way, had lots of great funding information on it, but I did want to point out that one item on the wages to revenue.
Carmen Reynolds Navarre, that figure came directly from the most recent 990 that's available to the public. It came directly off of that form.
Okay, well that would have been a prior year, so maybe that was true in a prior year.
I believe it was the 2023 990.
These numbers are all 2020, 25, what we're talking about for budgeting, so. Yeah,
so
we were
then,
at that ratio. We're not at that ratio now.
So from 2023, what you're saying is you lost people from that figure.
Can we see how you came up with that?
I'm not. Yeah, I don't know how that was calculated.
Your calculations on that 40.
I didn't calculate it. I took it directly off of the 990.
But the 990 does not say 47% on it. It's got numbers on it, and you can interpolate the percentages from those numbers. So I was just wondering if you could show us your.
The 990 interpreted those numbers, and the 990 said 47.1%. I didn't make that up.
Okay, could you show us that then? Show me where you got that at.
Okay, will do.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carmen.
And then Don had also asked about the org chart. I'd sent some information in the response. I think I believe there was 5 positions that were vacant but not part of the 2025 budget. One vacant position that is part of the 2025 wage budget. So just some clarification there. So that was all I had. Like I said, I wasn't going to rehash the presentation from the board meeting. So I think with that we can open up for discussion.
Would you go back to the previous screen?
Nope. This previous.
Yeah, that one. So these numbers are for 2024?
No, those should be the projected numbers from the budget.
Okay. I'm just wondering how we got from 47% in 2023 to.
Well, once again, I don't know how that number was figured. I know Carmen says from the 990, so I'm just not sure. The 990 is a tax form.
Right.
I don't know. Some of those figures are not. I don't know how that.
There could be some revenues that aren't.
I tried to look at where we at now. I really don't want to speak for 2023 and from the 990. I just don't know.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Without having to go into a lot of discussion, can we just see we already know there's some members of the board that are absolutely okay with the budget, the 12% increase. And,
I wouldn't necessarily say we're okay with it, but we understand it.
right,
I'd chime in with that. I don't like it. I am open to any viable ways to knock that down
right.
without running out of money.
But, I'll just share real quick my thoughts. The reason I wasn't fully on board with the budget before is because I didn't feel like just like any business, if you're going to have to raise prices, you obviously have to look at your costs, and we have to make sure that we're reducing costs and keeping our costs as low as possible on this side if we're going to raise rates on the other side. And I wasn't fully convinced at the time, at the last meeting, that we were doing that we had done that. I've spent that time in between the first budget workshop and this one going through basically every line item. And the fact that Jeff and his crew are asking for the exact same operating budget this year as they did last year, and we've already seen a completely crazy increase in insurance costs. We've seen an increase in our chemical costs. We've seen an increase across the board in equipment, delivery of equipment. I mean, you name it. Costs are going up everywhere, and he was able, him and his team were able to keep within the budget this past year. Matter of fact, a little bit under budget. So the fact that they're not asking for more in the operating expense, and that's one thing that I did ask Jeff about, is like, where can you show that we're working to decrease our costs so that we can justify this 12%? Now, the 12% not necessarily, we're looking at, perfect example is this huge pipe, the Spruce pipe that busted. Didn't belong to all of our water system, but we've got infrastructure that age, if not a lot older than that. And it's going to have to start, and that's one thing that I think this particular year, 2025, we've got to come up with a game plan to start replacing some of this old infrastructure that probably should have already started to be replaced. And I do understand the value of the money up front as opposed to just chipping away at it over time. If we were able to do 12% this year, 12% next year, and then after that, we're at the levels we should be to maintain this company at a healthy rate. After those 2 years, if we can go back to just doing cost of living increase from then on, or at least until something major happens, it makes a lot of sense. The last thing that personally that I want to do is be on the board that makes the decision to put us behind, so that in a couple of years maybe we have to double the prices, and I don't want to see that. I'm a member. I pay, like I said before, I've got a business and a home that I pay, and I'm getting squeezed every which way, right? Everybody is these days, but we have to have a healthy water company in this area. And I don't want it to be bloated. I want it to be healthy and be prepared for anything that could happen going forward. So, having looked at the budget, having looked at every line item, and Carmen gave some fantastic ideas of maybe some things we could do this coming year with some grants and so forth. Maybe if some of those things come through, maybe we don't have to do the 12% next year. But until then, I'd have to say that I'm okay with this budget right now, which is something I couldn't say the last meeting. So that's where I stand.
This one in front of us, Jeff, this is with the 12% that the rate study?
Correct.
I hear you, and I agree. It's necessary. We paid for the rate study to get us to where the business should be, a professional to look at it. The things that stood out to me is, he said our median income for water was 1.1 here, where nationally is 4.5. So that shows you there. But the big thing, when we say 12%, and I think I said it in November, is, well, what's that mean to me? So my average water bill is going to go up how much? I think he said for water it was $1.90 a month. And for wastewater, both, it was like $6.70 or $7 a month.
Yep.
So I think when we say 12%, we really need to be saying your average bill of the average household of 3,000 gallons a month is only $6 is more than we want to do, but we're paying for the sins of previous boards where CPI, and not only did Fairpoint have a break, we had a breakdown in Pepper. What did that cost us? 55, 60 grand off the, so I'm with you. I support, I don't want it, I just think it's necessary. And, you know, hopefully things pan out where we don't have to move forward at this rate for the next couple, so. I'm with you, David. If you put it to vote, I would say yes. Grudgingly.
Same here, but you know what, it's our water company, the members own it, and we have to make sure it's healthy and ready for anything that's gonna come our way. And we have bad weather all the time, there's all kinds of issues in this area of the country. Anybody else?
I'll say, I was just like you, David, I wasn't convinced that we needed 12%. I don't think I'm still convinced that we need 12, but I realize that, you know, after going back and looking at the numbers and the operating budget is what it is, I realize that there are some infrastructure improvements that we've got to do, and, you know, this line break with, at Fairpoint kind of shows us what can happen if you know, if things aren't kept up, you know, and maintained, and maybe that was just a product failure, or, you know, I don't know if we really know yet, but we want to make sure that the infrastructure is kept up, and we don't want to run out of money. And, you know, looking at the cash flow projections a little closer, and if we're going to do these infrastructure projects, then the money's got to be there to do it, or else we will. So I will reluctantly vote to approve it. I'd like to see us implement some potential additional revenue streams. I think we're missing the boat on going after some potential grants that we could go for to help with some of those infrastructure improvements. So grants and or, you know, low interest rate financing through the state revolving fund. You know, I do want to see us explore some of that over the course of this year and see if we can't make those numbers look a little bit different for 2026 and not have to do another 12% again. So that's my take on everything.
I think it's been a long time. In fact, I think very long time from the last time I remember us doing a 5 and 10 year workshop on the 5 and 10 year capital improvement plan. Just doing that and going over everything, kind of reviewing the costs, reviewing the projects, and seeing what's out there. And I think that'd be good for the board, because a lot of us see this budget and we go, okay, well, we're breaking even. Why do we need to add money to it? Well, it's because of those capital projects and because of those long-term items that have to be paid for. You know, they don't have to be paid for today or tomorrow or even next year maybe, but we know that they're coming. And I think it'd be a good idea for all the board members to be on the same page.
Maybe incorporate that into the board training, you know,
Yeah.
a segment on the CIP.
I think that should be done as a standalone.
Standalone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you have too many things going on, and you don't really accomplish anything at all.
Yeah. Okay. Make that happen.
Yeah, and I would like to see us start building building some of these accounts so that we don't have to, like we did with the Eglin project, don't have to go out and get this huge loan. So much better paying cash and not have to pay that interest. So that's where I'm at.
One other thing I know we've talked before, and I made the motion to approve, is pay banding. So I'd like to bring that up again so that, you know, the wages are the wages, but each position should cap out somewhere. So at some point, I can't remember what the motion was, that you would look at it and present it. And I don't know that we've really done it
I
for
think
this
we'll
budget.
have to bring that back to the board
Yeah.
probably in February, because I think it got confused with this budget not being approved. I think I got a little sideways with that, so I think February would be the time to address that.
Yeah, we were ready to, but
Yeah,
then the
no, I'm
budget,
just
the
wanna-
budget didn't get approved,
Wanna
so we
keep it in the
couldn't.
back of everybody's mind.
Obviously, yeah, we
no,
couldn't do that, but,
exactly.
yeah, we absolutely need to do that as well, as a part of this, so. Rob, you got anything? Anybody?
Yeah, I got,
Anybody else?
so I won't be here next year, but most of you will be, at least 4, if not 6 of you. I would like to see as part of that training, I would recommend that, if you look back at some year, they said, hey, every year we have to increase by CPI. Didn't follow it, no board has to. However, I don't have any confidence that that would have made a difference. Maybe I've had my eyes closed. If so, then it's good, I'm going to be off. But I don't remember hearing any of these metrics that this rate study brought up the last 3 years. We weren't looking at them. Now we're in trouble, in my mind, because if we were looking at them, we weren't looking at them close enough, and we weren't heeding them, and we got into this position. So next year, the board, I recommend you need to decide, okay, what are we going to use as metrics going forward so we know every quarter, every half year, whatever, what do we need to look at to know that we're doing okay? It can't just be, what was the rate increase? I mean, we all learned that. It's not just rate increase. But you need to look at some of these metrics, and we didn't, at least not that I remember seeing. Again, if it's age, just throwing that memory away, so be it. But I don't think I missed all of that.
No, you didn't miss it. I didn't see any kind of metrics that showed that, we were this far behind on infrastructure and capital improvement projects. So, there were recommended increases, and we did have increases over the last several years, but not to this level.
Yeah, that rate study was an eye-opener, and I think we definitely need to put that into place for every few years, every 3 years or so, just to make sure we're staying on track, but I agree with you, Don, absolutely. All right, so,
We need a motion?
well, this is we can't, we approve it on the 21st. So,
Got it.
But this is a workshop, so.
Oh, that's right, 'cause the 7th, when I was gone, it's got it.
Yep.
So if I remember in past years, we made a motion to say that this is the budget we're going to propose that.
Yeah, but that was at the December meeting. That always happens.
What,
And then you approve it at the annual, right?
I
That's
understand
what
that, but we didn't say present it.
I don't think
Nobody
it'll
needs
change
to.
anything we do between now and
Certainly
then.
not going to bother me.
Yeah.
I'm Figmo, so if it's something we need to do,
I think we're all on the same page, and
Okay.
I think we're all in agreement. It's just, we'll have to wait for the 21st to approve. And we're going to recognize Ms. Carmen Reynolds.
Yes, Carmen Reynolds. But before you all finalize everything, I just wanted to let you know that diversification of revenue is imperative, and somebody could be working every day on behalf of this water system if you would either hire a grant writer conversant in water utilities needs, or some of those folks on the list I provided that are grant writers that work for water utility companies that could be used piecemeal. That ends up being very expensive by project, but every day someone could be finding grants that are available for unrestricted needs, for capital improvements, for construction projects, and be very aggressive and proactive about that. And that could be, right now, water is gold, and folks are coming out of the woodwork with programs for grants. And so this is a good thing because we could ride that curve. The other thing is this big pipe that broke. Do we have any look back? Was there anything that caused that could repay us for the damage? I assume we're looking into that.
That's probably a good question for Fairplains Board,
Mm-hmm.
because they're the ones that own that line.
And so my question is, this Thursday, there's a big pot of money out there at the legislature, and we don't have to have a solidified program that's written up. All we have to have is an idea or ideas to present at Thursday night's Northwest Florida Legislative Delegation meeting. Could Fairpoint, could they bring up that pipe break and say they would like a line item for that? Are there programs that you all could put forth? For example, Okaloosa County did not have any problems asking for $54 million during their delegation meeting for 2 roads and a mental health program. So I see it within y'all's purview or combined separately with Fairpoint that it does not hurt to ask, because if you don't ask, you don't get. So I just, and there are state funds also that we never thought we were eligible for, and that has been solidified, and we are eligible for all of those that we did not think we were. So there's stuff out there for the asking. Yes, it takes work. I've written grants before. I know it's work. When you get a grant, you have to do the reporting and the follow-on stuff. But that gives you a force multiplier that you don't have by just raising rates all the time. Thank you very much
Absolutely.
for your service.
Real quick, Jeff, where does Liberty Partners fall in that? I mean, are they I know they wouldn't write the grants, but they're our legislative, so they should keep us apprised of those sort of things?
And they do. I'll be attending the meeting on Thursday as well. Typically, we use that as an opportunity just to thank the delegation for their support. And then we would have the lobbyists work on individual funding initiatives when we identify them. So yeah, we're working with them.
All right. Yeah, this is definitely something we need to discuss as far as a grant writer, whether full-time or just for specific grants that we need. But, all right, if I don't see any other names on the workshop forum list, so since nobody has anything,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second. I got a motion, second. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.